Jerusalem was not simply crowded, it was on the verge of breaking. Around 30 AD, during the volatile days of Passover, this city had become a pressure chamber where tension moved silently through every street. Pilgrims flooded in by the thousands, religious anticipation mixed with political anxiety, and Roman soldiers watched from every corner, ready to crush even the smallest sign of unrest. And in the middle of all this, one man moved with a strange sense of calm, as if he knew exactly where everything was heading. What unfolded before the arrest of Jesus was not a sudden chain of events, it was something far more deliberate, a sequence shaped by human decisions, fear, strategy, and timing. Because before the torches lit the night, before the kiss of betrayal, before the quiet garden of Gethsemane, there were signals, patterns, movements beneath the surface that pointed toward an outcome already forming. To understand this moment, we have to step back a few days earlier when Jesus entered Jerusalem in a way that could not be ignored. It was not quiet, not hidden. It was public, emotional, and charged with meaning. Crowds gathered, voices rose, and people welcomed him as a king. And in a territory controlled by Rome, calling someone king was not just symbolic, it was dangerous, because Rome did not tolerate rival authority. From that moment forward, Jesus was no longer just a teacher passing through towns. He became a visible figure, a symbol capable of influencing a restless population. And symbols in unstable environments can be more threatening than weapons. The religious leaders immediately understood the risk. Jesus was gaining attention too quickly, but more than that, he was challenging something deeper. He questioned established interpretations, exposed contradictions, and did so openly in front of large crowds. That kind of influence didn't just disrupt ideas, it weakened control. And in a system where religious authority was tightly connected to political stability, losing control meant losing everything. But Rome was also watching. The empire was not concerned with theology or doctrine, it was concerned with order. Stability had to be preserved at all costs. Any figure that attracted crowds and carried even the suggestion of leadership could quickly be seen as a threat. And Rome had a clear pattern when dealing with threats: act early, act decisively, and make it public. Yet Jesus did not fit the usual profile. He wasn't organizing rebellion, he wasn't calling for violence. He spoke of a kingdom, but not one that could be mapped or conquered. And somehow that made him even more unpredictable. Because ideas are harder to contain than armies, and that uncertainty began to spread. Behind closed doors, conversations started to shift. The Sanhedrin, the council responsible for maintaining religious order, began to deliberate. They could not act openly. The people still respected Jesus. A public arrest could trigger exactly the kind of unrest they were trying to avoid. So the solution required precision, timing, control. And this is where the story becomes even more intriguing. Why act during Passover? Why choose the most crowded, emotionally charged moment of the year? Because pressure was already at its peak. The city was full, emotions were heightened, and narratives could shift quickly. If handled correctly, public perception could be influenced, support could turn into doubt, admiration into suspicion. But that required careful orchestration. Every move had to be calculated. Meanwhile, Jesus continued his actions. And then came a moment that changed everything. He entered the temple and disrupted its operations, overturning tables, confronting those who controlled its systems. This was not just symbolic, it was direct, a challenge not only to religious authority, but to the economic structures tied to it. And in that moment, hesitation disappeared. The decision was no longer if something should be done, but when and how. And then Judas appears, one of the inner circle, someone who knew the patterns, the movements, the private moments. His betrayal was not just emotional, it was strategic, because it offered something essential: access. It made it possible to act without crowds, without chaos, without resistance. But this raises a deeper question. Was Judas acting alone, or was he simply the final piece in a process already set in motion? Because when the events are observed closely, everything aligns too precisely, as if each step was unfolding exactly as needed. The final meal takes place. Words are spoken that carry a sense of inevitability. There is tension beneath the surface. Something has shifted. And then the night falls. Gethsemane, a quiet place, away from the noise of the city, a place where Jesus could be found without attracting attention. And that is exactly where everything converges. Torches cut through the darkness, soldiers arrive, temple guards follow, and Judas leads them. The arrest is not chaotic. It is controlled, efficient, almost surgical. No crowd interference, no uprising, no resistance in the way the system expected. And yet, something is different. Jesus does not run, he does not resist, he does not fight. He accepts what is happening. And that changes everything. Because the system was built to respond to opposition, to crush rebellion, but not to process voluntary surrender. And that creates a different kind of tension. Because now the challenge is no longer just eliminating a threat, it is justifying that elimination. And that tension carries forward into everything that follows. But the real story begins here, in the days leading up to the arrest, in the silent decisions, in the calculated risks. Because history is not shaped only by the moments we see, it is shaped by the choices made before those moments become visible. The arrest of Jesus was not the beginning, it was the result, the final step in a chain that had been forming long before anyone realized where it would lead. And that realization forces a difficult reflection. How many events in history that seem sudden were actually built slowly, piece by piece? How many outcomes we consider inevitable were once uncertain, shaped by human fear and decision? Because what happened before Jesus was arrested is not just a historical account, it is a pattern, a demonstration of how systems react when they feel threatened, how power adapts, how fear accelerates decisions, and how individuals can become part of something far larger than themselves. In the end, the question remains, not just what happened, but why it happened in that exact way. And perhaps the answer is not found in the visible actions, but in the invisible pressures behind them. Because history is rarely about what appears on the surface, it is about what moves beneath it.